Hi, it's Miss Pritzel at the Appleton West Library, and I'm book talking a nonfiction book called Flesh and Blood So Cheap: The Triangle Fire and Its Legacy, and the author is Albert Marrin. Albert Marrin writes a number of nonfiction titles for young adults. So, one thing to keep in mind when you're reading nonfiction for this age level, it's written at the actual age level, whereas most of our fiction is written at like a fifth, sixth grade reading level. This is written at an eighth or higher. So I first learned about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire through a fiction book, and me being me got curious, and so I read this book, but I also, PBS did a documentary for the 100th anniversary, which was in 2011. And it was a really good documentary. I've watched it several times. So, okay, Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. So they made shirtwaists were what they called like a blouse back then. Hope you guys know what that means. It was a competitive industry. Wealthy owners were taking advantage of poor immigrants, and where they were working like 6-7 days a week, 10-12 hours a day. They were locking doors on these people, no breaks, there were some really crazy, insane working conditions. So this fire happened in March of 1911. Now, at around that same time, before this fire happened, the textile industry as a whole in New York was going through a lot of change and upheaval because the workers were realizing we have some power if we walk out and go on strike. And there were a lot of leading feminists, because women still did not have the right to vote at this time, but there were a lot of leading feminists wealthy women who were supporting these people, saying, yes, these people need better working conditions and stuff like that. So a number of companies worked things out with their workers, and those people went back to work. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, yeah. So what happened is there was a fire, and the PBS documentary really goes into like how and why this fire happened. Like it has to do with dust particles in the air and just all this stuff that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you worked in a textile factory. So 146 people died, mostly women, and it was the deadliest workplace fire until September 11th. So this is a historical book. It is a disaster book. But one of the things about it, what do we learn about history? Like, our goal about history is to learn about history, so hopefully we don't repeat history. But do we still sometimes have rich people taking advantage of poorer people? I think that sometimes happens in our country, and it definitely happens overseas, because most of our textiles, so any fabric, so sheets, tablecloth, clothes that we use is almost entirely made overseas, and mostly by poor people with rich corporations taking advantage of them so that we don't have to pay too much. History does repeat itself, and our goal is that it won't. So another thing that's important to know about this, unions were strengthened during this time, and as a result of this fire, a lot of the safety laws that have been put in place by what is called OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Agency, came about because of things like this, and specifically as a result of this fire. So it's a very interesting book. I think other interesting things are like what happened to the owners who were on the 10th floor and what happened to them after the fire. And it's a very interesting story. And like I said, our goal about history is to learn from history, and sometimes we do a good job of it, and sometimes we need to be reminded of history so that we continue to do a good job of it. So I hope if you're interested in nonfiction, and whether it be history or disasters, I think this might be a book for you. Like I said, I got interested because I was curious from a fiction book. So come in and check it out, or I'll help you find something else, because it's my job to keep everybody reading.